Hey guys, I'm back with a new video. In the previous videos, we got a deep understanding of the DOM traversal and how to leverage the properties and methods associated to it to manipulate the DOM elements and DOM nodes. Now let us have a look at how we can create and insert new elements, because that is something we haven't really covered thus far. Basically, we have two ways to accomplish this. So the first way is HTML strings. And the second way is document.createElement. Document.createElement. Okay, so with HTML strings you can write HTML code in JavaScript and then tell JavaScript and therefore to the browser that it should take and parse the HTML code, render it at a certain place in the DOM. HTML strings can be added using the innerHTML property. innerHTML, inner and then HTML in uppercase. So innerHTML property, which you can find on the elements nodes, and then it renders an HTML string. So some HTML code in that place where we have added. Alternatively, you have something called as insert adjacent HTML. Insert adjacent HTML. Okay, so let me write it a little clean. Insert adjacent HTML. Okay, this method, if you want to render HTML code next to some existing HTML code instead of replacing that HTML code with it, so this will help in adding HTML string in specified position. Now then also an alternative we have is the createElement method, which is defined on the document object to create a new element and then manually insert it somewhere in our document. Now such created elements can be added with append child, or append methods. Okay, this appends new element or node inside of some parent element or node. You also have other methods like prepend, after, before, insert before, to insert elements to insert at specific positions, which we will address as we move along. Now what I will do is, back in my Visual Studio Code, I have prepared an HTML boilerplate for you. So you can simply run the file with live server and then you can check out this here. So let us start with innerHTML. I want to select the main element, and what I want to do is that I will change its entire content. So in the console, I will write const main document.querySelector. Select the main element, press enter, and then I will do access the main.text content. So what it gives is, it gives the entire text content that is defined within the main element. So as you can see, we have reached out to the DOM. We grab a reference to the main element. So the query selector gave us a DOM object. Now the key thing you need to understand is that the text content property gives you access to all the text within the main element here. This will give you access to all the text that is present or nested within the main element. So main.text content. Now if I want to change the text content that is defined or that is nested within the main element, what I will do is main.text content, and I will set that to changed. And you can see on the fly, the nested content that was there within the main element got replaced with changed. Okay, and this changed is not an HTML element node. This is just simple text content. So this can be used to set text content, but if you want to set elements along with text content, then you will have to use innerHTML, and then you can set it to a string that contains some HTML-ish code. So what I will do is, instead of using main.textContent, I can simply say, so let me reload this page so that we can get back to the initial configuration that we had. Okay, so we are back. What I will do is, I will again grab the reference to the main element, document.createSelector main, press enter, and I will say main.innerHTML, and I will say h1, which is the main heading. This is changed. Close the h1 tag. So this, you can see, it's an element node. It's not simple text content. So we are using HTML-ish code, and we will replace the entire content, entire HTML that is nested within the main element with this. Press enter, and you can see on the fly it got changed to this is changed. Now if I inspect the elements tab, you can see within the main element we are having just a single element, which is the h1 element, which is nested within the main element. You can see it does work fine because we have a new h1 element having within it a text content of this is changed. And as you can see, this replaces all the HTML code within the main element. So any nodes that we earlier had within the main element are now completely overwritten by this h1 element, as you can see. So not just child nodes of the main element, all the descendant as well will get replaced with this new HTML code within the main element. Now let us play with the list that we had. So what I will do is, I will reload this, and as you can see we are having this list. So we'll play with this list. So let us see how we can do so. So back in my console, what I will do is, I will grab a reference to the unordered list. So what I will do is, I will say const task list document dot query selector, pass the UL tag, and you get a reference for the task list. So you can see task list is there with us. So with query selector, we gone back a DOM object which refers to your task list, which is the UL here. So what I will do is, I will add a new list item to the HTML code that we have here. So what I will do is, I will say task list dot innerHTML, and I will add a new list item to the already existing innerHTML plus, I will say li, and I will say task 5, close the li tag, close the single quote, press enter. So now you can see on the fly we got one more element, one more list item added to our unordered list. So if we hit enter, you can see this works. The other 4 items are there already, and you can see the new one was just added. But this approach has a major flaw. It becomes clear if we go to the elements tab of the browser. So let me show you this. Back in the elements tab, if I open the UL element, and now look at the elements tab when I hit enter. So I will open the console here. Instead of this, what I will do is, I will open the paint flash option. So more tools, then we have here something called as performance. Where is that? Rendering, yes, rendering. And I will enable the paint flash option, and then I will re-execute this HTML, this JavaScript code, and you can see on the fly we got a new item added. But did you notice something? If I re-execute this code again, the entire list gets re-rendered. Okay, this is not the kind of behavior that we expect here. Now as you can see, on enabling the paint flash option in the browser, you will see all the items did change. So you can clearly see after enabling the paint flash option that it unnecessarily rendered the old items which were already rendered. So what happened here is when we do this, we replace the entire HTML code again and again with our list, which of course is based on the old one, but everything got re-rendered. Now this is something that can hamper the performance of your application because you are compelling the browser to reparse, re-render a lot of HTML code which did not change at all. Of course, for a short list like this, it is definitely not noticeable, but when you are working with complex interfaces, it can really hurt the user experience. So the takeaway from this is that innerHTML is useful when you want to change all the HTML code of an element. It is not so good if you want to add something to the existing element. The downside to the above approach is that you do not have access to the newly rendered element content. The missing direct access to the inserted elements can be a problem here because you might want to add some interactivity with these elements like event listeners and all. Now let us see how we can eliminate the above downsides using the createElement method. So what I will do is I will create a new list item using document.createElement. So I will clear this and I will say const list item document.createElement and I will pass li tag within this. Okay, so let us see this list item. So now we have a list item and it has no text content within it currently. Okay, now this createElement method, unlike the query selector, will always exist on the document object. You cannot explicitly call it on any other element. This creates an element, a new DOM object, and this method takes at least one argument here. That is the tag name of the element that you want to create. For our case, it is li because we want to create a new list item. So now we have the new li. Let me log this to the console. So as you can see, currently it is empty. Now let us add the new task list item that we just created using createElement method to our already existing list. Let us configure this a bit before adding this to the list. So what I will do is I will say list item dot text content and I will say this is the new list item, Okay, so what I now want to do is I want to append this to our already existing list. Okay, so we need to have a reference for our unordered list for that. So what I will do is I will say task list dot append child and pass the list item to this and press enter. So now you see the entire HTML code of the list did not got re-rendered because you can see I have enabled paint flashing. All the entire HTML code, all the previous ULLIs did not got re-rendered, which is unlike the innerHTML where the entire HTML code within the UL tag got re-rendered. So this is more performance efficient compared to innerHTML. Okay, so just a new element was added and the old list remained unchanged. Okay, so and this does work fine. You can even apply styles, event listeners on the newly created element even before adding it to the DOM. Okay, so this was all about the video on creating elements. In the next video we'll see how we can remove elements from the DOM. So if you are loving the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and please share the content with your friends and colleagues, and I will see you guys in the very next video. Thanks a lot guys.